Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it is your host with the most, Avery LR32 here, and destroy the ever-living Reddit boo-boo stain off of that like and subscribe button as we climb even higher the 1700 ladder. I really do appreciate all the love and support. Wanted to do a bit of a different video today where we look at a post that I came across maybe a week and a half ago on Reddit. It's a year old, so the format was obviously different at that time, but it's something that I want to talk about because I feel like what this article talked about when I read it originally coincides really well to a lot of the comments that I'm seeing on my last video talking about hand traps are a problem in Yu-Gi-Oh! And just like I thought, the comment section was very diversified, which is something we're going to go back to about diversity later in this video when talking about format diversity. It was very just diverse, where some people liked them. I even saw a couple comments that said, I love Dimension Shifter, which was wild to see. Makes me wonder if those are the same people that liked Mystic Mine when it was legal in the game, which... funny with that because anyway, we'll probably get to that later. I'm sure this video is going to be a long one. You know better than I do at this point, but I figured it'd be a good video to kind of like, do since I don't really have any sort of scripts ready to go. I'm working on some for videos, but those take a while to cook, right? So really do appreciate all the love and support. Let's just go through this because I think that there are some things that this person mentions that a lot of people have issues with in the game. And that way too, I can kind of give my extended thoughts outside of writing a script into things that people said on my last video, right? So let's just start on this. Quitting Yu-Gi-Oh! Due to looking after my mental health, which is a crazy start to an article. I've already read this, and some of the things that they talk about is rather interesting when it comes to their mental health. So I thought that this would be kind of interesting from their perspective to look at because I've never heard someone say that they're quitting Yu-Gi-Oh! Due to their mental health. So ever since I started playing in 2014-15 or so, I've had a constant issue with the game that returns time and time again. It's a mix of issues somewhat interconnected with each other. Those have been compounding or returning to full force in some formats, and it has reached a peak for me where I've realized this game makes me frustrated or depressed most of the time, and it would be healthier for me to quit it for good. The issues in question: 1. Out of archetype abuse. This is going to be a juicy article, y'all. Let's begin with an example. It's 2015 and the Speedroid archetype gets released with Speedroid Terratop a key part of it to get more synchro materials and make plays. Unfortunately, it can also be used to access rank 3s with ease and in the near future, the Burning Abyss Link 2, without a normal summon. What happens? Terratop gets limited for years due to its use out of its home archetype, which suffers, while the decks that use the engine just move on to the next engine. So, also, we're drinking Crown and Pepsi today because I had to work yesterday and it was really busy. So this is going to probably be more podcast style. So maybe you're playing the Battlefield 6 beta, which I should be doing, and you're just listening to this in the background. Thank you regardless. So this is something that I see a lot of people complain about in the game, whether it's from a year-old Reddit post or even today. There's a lot of out-of-archetype abuse in a lot of decks, and that's only gotten worse over time with how small and compact some of these archetypal engines are. Like, you look at Tempai and you played what? When nothing was hit on the ban list on the archetype, you played 3 Sangan Summoning, 3 Kaiman, 3 Chandra, that's 9, 3 Pydra, that's 12, 1 to 2 Fadra, 13, 14. You're at most playing like, what, 15, maybe 16 engine cards, if that? And then the rest is just hand traps? Like, that's crazy that you can put in that many stuff to like build your deck. I talked about with the Centurion example where the deck was built for me. Like, that's crazy that they release so few cards in an archetype and then don't even really need to expand on it because it's already pretty good. The person goes on to say, and due to its meta relevance, it was super expensive to boot. I don't remember Terratop being that expensive, or Tacky board. Shitting on any player that wanted to build its home deck for fun. Also a pattern that will be sadly repeated in most of the following examples. An errata who cannot be used as exceeds material or can only summon wins for the turn or so could have worked wonders in preventing its usage while not hurting speedroids, but no. Then some years later, history repeats with Brilliant Fusion and then the Preda Brilliant engine. He's talking about Preda plants with Brilliant Fusion. Then Magician Souls is used over and over outside Dark Magician. I remember those days with Based, aka as we called it on this channel, badass sexy engine decks, because I think the term base is fucking stupid. Then we get Magical Beasts. He's talking about the Mythical Beast pendulum monsters that are negates. And the only cards used are the cards that give a negate. Then Verte makes DPE accessible outside of heroes where it becomes omnipresent. this all is compounded by a related issue, too, lack of locks. So, again, basically harping on the fact that Predaplant, Verte, and Akonda was a Predaplant support card, but they made it so generically good that any deck could use it to access DPE and Dragoons, which that was a really terrible fucking format. I've actually seen people say, like, that format was a good format, and more power to you, Sugar Boo Bear, but, like, it's similar to, like, why I don't understand people like Tier 0 Dragon Ruler format. Like, I don't understand why people enjoy those formats. Like, if you're enjoying the game, you enjoy it in your own way, but I will never understand it. Same goes for the Dragon Ruler format. I think that's one of the worst formats of all time, and I played in that shit. And I remember getting hit by some dude playing fucking Heavy Slump. You don't know what that card does? Look it up. I had 7 cards in hand, and I went down to 2. It was toxic. Plus, I blame my dad for putting bad juju on me, because before a regional started, he goes, watch you play against Stun round 1 in this Tier 0 Dragon Ruler format. I played against Stun. It was a horrible format. 4, lack of locks. Cyber Dragon Infinity has released a big strong negate and monster eater balanced by asking for Nova as a material, which asks for 2 level 5 machines. So very few decks could naturally access it. Its proper home, Cyber Dragon and Galaxy through 2 Galaxy Soldiers, at the very least kept to decks that naturally had level 5 machines. Even then, most decks could play 3 Galaxy Soldier. But okay. Is what I wish I could say, but sadly at the time also existed Tellarknight Batalamus, which made it accessible to every deck with a rank 4 toolbox, most decks at the time. This gave it a meta presence and a very high price until it finally got addressed. I do remember Infinity having a fairly high price tag. I want to say it was like $60 or something, because I think it was only a secret rare. Let's go a bit forward in time. Super Heavy Samurai Wakushi is released as part of a new support wave for Super Heavy after many years. Everything looks solid, cool, right? Except due to a lack of locks on all the effects, Super Heavy becomes yet another deck that loses all of its identity, and end board becomes Appaloosa, Baron, Savage, IP Masquerena. Add in Regulus, at least that one is only for machine decks, and hand traps. Oh, and it can also be splashed anywhere to give free Baroness. Wonderful. And I will give Konami this, in the year that this post has been made, they have hit a lot of those generically strong Omni Negate cards. Like, now Baron's banned. Now Borreload Savage is banned. So any deck that's not locked into anything can't make those generically good cards. Or Appaloosa as another example. Because those cards on their own are so generically strong that, like, if you can get an engine that makes those things by summon number 5 to dodge the nib, you know, when you have so many of those in the format, it makes it kind of pointless to have cards like Nib, because pretty much every deck's going to be outing the fucking card anyway. And if they're playing into it, it's either because that they're bad or they didn't open optimally and they're just hoping you don't have the Nib. Like, they're just playing as if Nib doesn't exist in the format, which can be either a good or bad call, depending. So moving on here, not counting that the end board above is in heavy need of more locks, Savage only being able to use dragons as materials, as an example. Baron locking into Synchros for the turn or asking for a Synchron Tuner or a Synchros material. I could actually see that being an errata if they wanted to bring back Baron, is having it use a Synchron Tuner. Because, like, that just makes sense, especially from, like, a 5Ds anime perspective. Like, why would it not have a Synchron Tuner as, like, a requirement? Like, that actually seems like that should have been on the card to begin with. Thank God they were banned. At least the situation is horrible. Oh, that goes to show how long those cards have been banned. I didn't know that was banned by this point. Sometime later, Melodious also gets legacy support. It looks wonderful, revitalizing the old strats. What's that? Also no locks. Players are splashing it in to get negates before Nibiru. Again, guess what's happening with Phantom of Yubel right now? Remember that this is from a year ago, so Yubel was one of the best decks. If I can talk without burping like, you know, an AI Bigfoot. Number 3, lack of identity. I talked about this in my Centurion example, and this is where I want to talk about diversity. Since I just mentioned Yubel, let's go with it a bit deeper. The first new support wave established a clear theme. Better ways to float and use the damage reflection, access to rank 10 pool, compatibility with other fiend strategies, and a new mass super poly synergy, which was really cool. Like, Yubel the Loving Defender is a cool card on paper. Like, it's the fact that you had all these other fiends, especially with Fiendsmith, being able to be thrown in to make just a Fiendsmith Fiend Yubel strat that I'll admit was fun to play, but it was really confusing AF. Like, if you made one misplay or had to play through hand traps, it got really confusing. Then we get Nightmare Throne and Squirmer, and it's the same, but stronger. Some Link-focused builds are emerging, but Mass Fuse in the field's still part of the extra deck. That wasn't a thing much more longer once we get Phantom. Then Phantom is released in short-printed, but not touching that here. Yeah, it was pretty short-printed. Fiendsmith, yet another omnipresent engine, as if we didn't have enough of Adventure some years back. That's true. On the horizon, and now we have Fiend Link vomit out resources en masse to get a ton of negates and some other disruptions, but mostly negates on the field. What happened? We had a great thing an expansion ago. Similar but in lesser impact is Lunalight and Fluffle. Last time I checked, those were fusion OTK decks, then turned into combo mash for negates and interactions. Lunalight to the point of getting a card ban, but Yubel is the recent most fresh offender of the bunch, and get used to seeing it, by the way, and Fluffle takes us back to the Toad, which takes me to 4, lack of effort. So let's stop there, right? The generically good engines, I feel like outside of Fiendsmith and Melodious and Snake Eye, there's a few. I feel like they're getting better at trying to implement locks to things. And at least with Fiendsmith, if you commit to the wave high King Caesar, you probably don't have any other resources to keep extending with that Fiendsmith engine that turn. But the problem is now you still have your normal summon, usually. And so you're just playing through a board that, if the opponent wants to break it, is going to require either Valor or Imperm plus Nibiru, and you may still be able to play through that anyway. And so this is where I want to talk about diversity, because I saw a comment on my video from the other day talking about the hand trap problem, whatever, and I actually ended up deleting the comment as a whole. Like, there were some replies to it, and I had replied to it, but it ended up getting just really toxic and hateful, and I didn't want it on the video. But the point that the person was saying was that, basically, how can I say that hand traps are an issue when the current format is very diverse? Which, when you look at it on a pie chart and you're not taking into account how busted the decks are in actual practice and how long they fucking play a turn, or even on your turn in the case of Killer Tune, because they can synchro on your turn, which is bonkers. But you have pure Canine, you have, if you want to take variants into account, Canine Vanquish Soul, Yummy, Malice, Rizal. You have variants of Rizal, which is Mitsurugi, Dododo, maybe Pure, but I don't know why. Fiendsmith, Mitsurugi, Rizal. So, like, you have, I would say, like 10 plus decks, technically, if you want to count variants. Primite Blue Eyes to a lesser extent, even though that's really fallen off the map. You have all these different decks to choose from. My response to that, and like I said to the person in the comment section, is, did you not see my example of the Centurion, where I threw in 15 hand traps, 3 Tikaboo, 3 Fenrir, the Centurion cards, whatever, right? The deck was built for me. A lot of people don't like the fact that decks can just be built for you. Literally, on my Dueling Book account, I have a non-engine deck list saved that is literally 1 call by, 1 talents, and 15 hand traps. Because at that point, you're probably just throwing in whatever engine that meshes well with those hand traps, and you just add or subtract whichever hand traps you're able to use. You know, like, if you can't use Purge, maybe you take it out for Impulse, maybe you take it out for something else, maybe you throw in Mulch Armies, whatever, right? Even currently now, even though I haven't been playing competitively for a few months, I've been looking at deck lists because I've been testing Anycraft, and a lot of decks are just playing like 6 Mulch Armies or even just 3 Fua, and then they're playing like Board Breakers, because that's what the format calls for right now, right? But that's not inherently a healthy thing when you have to inject power creep into a fucking format to get people to stop playing Ash or to stop playing Mulch Armies or Droll or whatever. And this is, on the flip side of that coin, to play devil's advocate, people have problem with this in the opposite way, where when you have non-archetypal things like the Speedroid package played in, say, Zodiac as an example, and then instead of them hitting zoo cards, they hit other problem cards. As my phone goes off, they hit other problem cards that does not address what caused the problems, being zoo, right? They'll hit Elder Entity Norden so that zoo can't combo with that anymore, but now they can just move to combo A or B, whatever. They'll hit things that became broken because of the release of new cards instead of hitting the new cards. Now, from a business perspective, it makes sense to hit the old things because you want to push the new shit. Like, that was the whole reason that people got pissed about the, what was it, March 2011 ban list, which you can find so many videos on that on YouTube, because people got fucking pissed because Konami, we were still linked to the OCG at the time, Konami hit all of the shit that was broken a few months prior, and they didn't touch wind-up or injectors. And this is when we got ban lists every 6 months. So every September and March, you got a ban list. In between those times, you were screwed with whatever the format had. power creep be damned, whether it occurred or it didn't. So like Tengu Plant got destroyed, all these previous decks got destroyed when Windup and Inzectors didn't get touched at all, and Windup was looping your hand for 5, for 6 if you opened up Pot of Avarice. So people were really upset because they were hitting all the previous stuff and hitting non-engine things like Trap Dust Shoot when it really didn't matter because the format had other issues at that point in time, and that was really a power creep issue at that point. And so now what we see is that these engines are so small and compact, and even if the format's diverse, sure, you have all these choices, but look at what these decks' power levels are able to be. It doesn't really balance things by saying, oh, well, all of these decks are broken, so it's balanced because we have 10 different options. That's like saying Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the original 2009, was a balanced game because everything was broken. But that doesn't excuse the fact that noob tubes were fucking broken, right? Like, it still needed to be fixed. So it was just something that I didn't really agree with, that I think kind of ignored the idea of issues that people have with the game, which is decks basically being built for you now, engines being so small and compact, where some people have problems with this. I personally don't. Taking engines from other archetypes and other engines and throwing them into a deck. What I don't like is generic things like Fiendsmith and Adventure that can just be vomited into anything, and like all of a sudden you're dealing with this broke engine that can vomit out so much on the board before you've even started like your main normal summon play, right? So I see both sides of it, but power creep is the issue when it comes to those non-engine things. I've even seen some people say that this is Konami's way of introducing set rotation by hitting old things. Whenever it gets like a new archetype comes out that can abuse something old, so they hit the old stuff to still push the new stuff, and that's like their way of set rotation. I don't really agree with that. So anyway, let's continue on here. 4, lack of effort. One of the first big negates in recent years was Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Quite powerful, yes, but balanced by its own summoning condition of asking for a synchro as material. Then Ultima Zulkan came out, intended to summon the Signer Dragons. The player base instead rushed to cheat out the last negate with the least amount of effort possible. Why? That's kind of incorrect, but why didn't Konami add a restriction to prevent this? Also, I'm sorry if you're hearing clapping in the background. My parents are baseball fans, so yeah, sorry. When Master Rule 4 was announced, a part of me was glad that at least I would see no more cheating of such manner. No more Tzolk'in plus Crystal Wing. Then Guard Dragons came out, and they also could cheat out Crystal Wing for free from the extra deck. And to my memory, it took a lot of time to get them banned. Did they, though? I remember that they banned one Guard Dragon, but I thought they banned Agripane and, like, Pisty on the same list. Maybe it was 2 different lists, but I could be wrong. Then Sword Soul could just do 1.5 card combo 2 negates and didn't even run a tuner card for it. Seriously, Moye was so wrong. Again, though, I feel like that was more Baron being an issue. Like, if you took Baron out of the equation, a format, let me give an example. A format that I find balanced, granted I did well in it, got my regional invite, but if you were on the channel 3 years ago, you'll know probably what deck I'm talking about. The 60-card Eldelich branded Eldelich deck that I played, that I copied off a guy on YouTube, that played like 22, 23 ways to get to my 1 of 15 floodgates. And yeah, I played Mystic Mine, but that was a diverse format. That doesn't mean it was a good format, because the best decks at the time were Branded, Sword Soul, and Flunder. And then I walked into a regional with 60-card Branded Eldritch playing 3 Tikaboo, 3 Rivalry, 3 Skill Drain, 3 Gozen, 3 Mystic Mine, 3 Demise of the Land. Like, it was crazy, right? And even though that was a diverse format, that wasn't a good format, and mostly because Mystic Mine was a thing, but also because Branded could crap out something like Sanctifier and, give you something degenerate, right? Which is a perfect example of new cards abusing old cards. But I feel like if you took Baron out of that format, I feel like Sword Soul isn't as good. Like, Sword Soul is at full power, and it really doesn't do anything. Granted, it's been power creep, but I mean, I think if you whip back to that format, what was that? My video is 3 years old, so what, like 2022-ish? I feel like that format's perfectly balanced if you take like Sanctifier and Baron out of it. Then Crimson Dragon. Crimson Dragon, the Quasar equivalents are meant to take effort to be summoned, at least 3 Synchros and a Synchron Tuner. Why is it allowed to just cheat out 2 level 12s and get a negate for free, or the Calamity Lock? What is even the point of restrictions then? I'll agree Crimson Dragon's a bit broken, but it's also easily stopped. I mean, you got to give credit where credit's due. Also worth mentioning here, transaction rollback, which just bypasses the cost and activation conditions of trap cards. The new Mayakashi trap is already horrible. Why are you making it less restrictive? Yeah, but the Mayakashi trap, in defense of that, the Mayakashi trap fucking sucked. I played against one deck at a Kissimmee regional where the dude hit me with the Mayakashi trap. And I think it was like game 2 after I beat him game 1 and I beat him game 3. Like, he only got that off because I didn't open correct hand traps and I lost one game because of it. And then I still beat him. I was playing Kashtira at the time. It was Kashtira format. So I went first with Kashtira and I locked out his zones and like he just crapped all over the floor. Cool dude, by the way. I'm not trying to like drounce him. But just the Mayakashi trap was always kind of bad in that regard. So got to give credit where credit's due. 5, intended uses. Here I'm going to touch 2 clear examples that could have been instantly solved by a rule change or an errata. First, Crystron Halki Fibrax, originally part of a set to help old strategies to Master Rule 4. Halk was intended to help synchro decks during the format. Instead, players used it to link climb and kept doing so. The solution was right there. This card and the monster summon with this card effect cannot be used as a link material. Okay. Then Sanctifier. No, I'm not a branded player. Hear me out. In concept, Sanctifier is a cool interaction. Bring back Fallen Albaz and a monster to fuse with it properly into something of your choice with Albaz's effect. Very cool. And the revived at these 4 specific board zones are occupied is a very interesting gimmick. What did the player base do with it? They went straight for the lingering floodgate that is gimmick Puppet Nightmare. And Konami, for some godforsaken reason, allowed this. I do agree with this. Konami, Puppet Nightmare was not the fucking problem. And everybody, if you talk to anybody about this, they will agree that Sanctifier was the problem. And it didn't even make sense from Konami's point of view. You banned Branded Expulsion, but you left Sanctifier. Why? Because Sanctifier is easier to stop? I'm pretty sure Sanctifier can't be targeted. So in theory, it has technically less outs than an Expulsion, because we don't have Red Reboot. So if you activate Branded Expulsion, yeah, it's harder to stop because it's a trap. But, like, you still can't target the fucking Sanctifier, unless I'm just totally wrong. But, like, I'm pretty sure you can't Veiler or Imprint the thing. So, like, what, you're going to Ghost Bell? Doesn't matter if you Ogre it. So, Nightmare was not the problem. If you're going to ban Expulsion, then I would argue that you should also ban Sanctifier. Sanctifier to this day should still be banned. I don't care that Branded's not an issue. It's even getting new support with the Stigmata Dragon thing in the fucking anime decks or whatever. Sanctifier is an issue. It should be banned. Puppet Nightmare was never the problem. But Konami said, oh, you're abusing Nightmare. Let's ban it, okay? I go back to Raw's Disciple or Mythical Beast Circuit or whatever it was that they were playing. Or not Mythical Beast Circuit, what the fuck am I saying? Ido, the Supreme Magical Force. It's like they just find something else. Sure, it's technically not as broken, but like, it's still broken. So, anyway, when Branded Expulsion was banned for doing the exact same thing, isn't Konami against Special Summon Floodgates? Wasn't Summon Limit Vandy's Emptiness and the Windberry Statue banned? Kind of the same thing I just mentioned. Yes, Brandon and Centurion, here referring to the Calamity Lock mentioned above, are not meta, but that's not the point. Those kind of plays should not ever be allowed. Keep in mind, this is from a year ago, so the format was different, but the Calamity Lock needed to go. Either that or they banned Crimson Dragon, but they want to push the sales of Crimson Dragon, which they're a business, I get it, but yes, I do think if Crimson Dragon ever gets banned, Calamity could come back, because it wasn't abused for years. Also, Firewall Dragon, why couldn't we have gotten the errata the moment the FTK started happening instead of getting the 2018 formats that we got? I mean, that's fair. I would argue. I don't think anyone would want to go back to 2018 and get FTK'd out of just oblivion. 6, not that related to other issues is still worth mentioning, meta or trash. Now, I do realize that competitive games imply meta and so on. That's not my point. Some metas have been more unfair or unbalanced than others. Tier Element, Tier 0, Adventure Engine Times, Arise Heart. The Adventure Engine at the time was broken. That's another matter. The problem is that what I want to refer to here is the attitude of the player base. It's kind of talking more about the player base, and not everybody in the player base is that cool, I'll admit. I've been lucky with the community I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, but not everyone's as cool as the people here in Jacksonville. If a card or archetype is not meta, is trash, unplayable garbage, shit, worthless, this community, for as long as I can remember, always goes for the most derogatory and cruel terms possible. They could just say it doesn't have the tools to keep up with the modern pace. But more often than not, Yu-Gi-Oh! Players are mean. Even with some content creators, sometimes I can't stomach their videos because of how they speak. I feel awkward and have to close the tab and do something else. Conclusion, I am done. Now look, this is actually something that I've had people complain about in my videos where I'm like, you know, don't play this deck. It's booty, butt cheeks. You know, you got to understand, though, I'm a content creator. I'm not going to sit here and be like, you should not play this deck because it's not that very good. That's not entertaining, right? And there are players in this game who will straight up be like, your deck sucks. Like, I actually saw this a couple months back. I think it may have been the last time I went to locals. A buddy of mine, shout out to my friend Victor. If you know this guy, his name's Victor. He's a cool dude. If you know him, you know that he just likes to like screw around and like joke around and stuff. There is this dude playing, and like 4 or 5 times, Victor is watching him play, and he goes, "God, this deck sucks." And like the dude, you could tell the dude was getting pissed because he's like, "Bro, that's like the 4th or 5th time you've said that my deck sucks. And like you're calling me a bad player." And Victor made clear, no, I'm not calling you a shit player. I'm saying that this deck is shit. Like it's not good. So there is the context there, right? But like if people don't know that like you're just kind of talking shit and joking around, they're going to take it personally. And so I know Victor, I know he was joking around. I thought it was pretty funny, but I could see from the other person's perspective how it looks like you're just being a jerk. Which is why like if I don't know someone like personally, I'm not going to be like, "Oh, why are you playing that? That deck is bad." Like I'm just going to kind of be passive and be like, "Oh yeah, that's a cool deck." And shout out to my buddy Jake too. Like he tells me about the decks he wants to play, and like he'll play stuff like Tindangle, Crawlers, and Mech Knights, whatever. And I'll tell him like, "Hey, listen, like those decks are shit." But that's because I'm a competitive player, right? I had that competitive mindset for nearly 20 years. When you tell me you want to play a Mech Knight deck 60 cards and make it work with crawlers and shit and like the World Legacy stuff, I'm going to tell you it's bad because it can't keep up with the current meta. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like I say on the channel all the time, to quote some jerk YouTuber that I'm not going to quote here who did the Ackman wrong, I'm not going to put it in a bottle and breastfeed it to you. Like, I'm going to tell you how it is because I'm not going to be out here trying to sell you $50 or $69 spreadsheets that don't show you all the possible combo lines and keep all the spicy ones to myself. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be honest with you. And there are a lot of players who are just very blunt in this game. It's not a good thing. Wouldn't really say it's a bad thing. It comes with the territory, and it's unfortunate, right? I am done. I quit somewhere around 2016 to 17. Back then, due to a mixture of Ashes at 3, is a 3 of everywhere, still is, and insanely expensive, not anymore, and the factors above. I came back in 2022 with Weather Painters, I am so sorry, and some staples from the Crystal Beast Structure deck. Oh god, I am so sorry for you. From there, I played Speedroid, Punk, after the Hulk ban, didn't want to play a Hulk Auroradon deck. Sure. Raid Raptor, not the Kali Yuga version. Okay, that deck's kind of bad anyway. And recently I picked Yugioh because I like the references. That is a cool deck. To my bad luck, it became meta, but I figured, hey, there is counterplay and sideboarding and misplays and non-engine. It's fine to play meta just this once. I like the deck, and I'm not doing any of the unfair crap of the issues above. No Melodious engine, for example. Couldn't always go for the negate that was Varudos, so end boards were varied. Okay. Then Phantom of Yubel got announced. My first reaction was shit. That seems too powerful. Then it came out in the TCG and it got short printed, and non-Yubel decks started splashing an engine to get their negate before Nibiru draw, thus raising the prices further. And that is something I don't like. I don't like the fact when you can play a broken engine that doesn't restrict you to anything to out things like hand trap. Again, it goes back to my whole argument of why even print Nibiru if everything could just out it in the first fucking place. To my bad luck, it became. Oh wait, we just read that. Read the price. That's the straw that broke the camel's back to me. After some frustration and crying, I just thought about it and realized that this is no longer healthy for me. If most card reveals, banless, deckless, and the attitude of the player base makes me unhappy and depressed and stressed, why am I still playing the game? Also, most of the time I check, I seem to be the only one who has any problem with the issues above, and it feels very lonely. I mean, if you yourself are playing this game by yourself, I'm not really like going to poke fun at the dude for like being frustrated and crying over a game. That's kind of whatever. But like I've experienced the same thing, right? I've talked about my friend Valley D, aka Derek, on the channel several times. And like once he quit the game, outside of my dad, I didn't have anyone to play with. And my dad plays stun and burn decks. So is that really going to make me a better player? No. And I just kind of lost the drive to want to try and get better when I knew I was going to get dunked on all the time. I didn't feel like I was getting better. I was at my peak when I made day 2 of YCS Orlando. I made day 2 of a YCS. My dad did that back in the day with Chainburn at YCS Miami years ago when One Day of Peace was at 3. And after that, I felt like I just fell off because I didn't have my testing partner. I didn't have my best friend, my brother from another mother who I went to YCS Indy together with and made memories and whatever. I didn't have that coach to make me better. And yeah, it gets lonely. It gets depressing when you don't have someone to bounce ideas off of and to keep you going in a game that you feel like you enjoy. And when you're by yourself playing a hobby, it's not that fun. I still hold some love for the franchise, but here's where I'm drawing the line for my own mental health. I'll be selling my Yugioh stuff, some other expensive staples I got lying around. Usually went from minimum rare to impossible. Still got some valuables in the binder. Keeping some for collection, maybe checking out some videos on YouTube, but that's it. Now, while I did complain about the player base above, I don't wish any of you bad luck, blah, 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 blah. So, overall, I feel, number one, this person is clearly a casual player, right? And a lot of the things that this person has an issue with, I see a lot from casual players. The problem is that I feel like overall Yu-Gi-Oh! Is moving towards that generic engine implementation as time goes on. I feel like we've seen a decrease in that because of different decks that have been released. But as I said in my video the other day, power creep is not a good excuse to make hand traps less relevant or to even make board breakers less relevant. You need to either use a ban list or some kind of set rotation, which I don't think Yu-Gi-Oh! Is ever going to go to set rotation because Konami would just lose so much fucking money. You have to implement something or start printing things that, locks you into something instead of having something like Fiendsmith that craps out a Wave High King and then they can't nib you. Although they technically can nib you, but then it doesn't matter because you usually still have a normal summon, so what the fuck's the point? So I feel bad for this person. I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh! As a whole is hard to play casually. Like, especially, it depends on the area, right? Like, here in Jacksonville, Florida, if you show up to locals wanting to play casually, you're going to get trounced. Like, you are going to get absolutely kicked in the balls. You got to play something meta if you want to have a chance at doing well. Like, it's a sad reality, right? I could not roll up with any craft tomorrow to locals. Let's just say, for example, it's out right now. I could not roll up with any craft and expect to do well. I just wouldn't. And that's not even including the fact that I barely know what the fuck the format is right now with K9 and Yummy and then, all the other shit that's going on. I would just get trounced because any craft is really not that good. So I feel bad for this person. I wish them the best of luck, but I hope that I was able to kind of expand on some of the things that I had talked about in my last video. And especially like with someone's mental health getting obliterated because of the game. I think it's just wild. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Hopefully you enjoyed this kind of different video. I'll be checking the comments to see like if you guys want more of this. If you do want more of this, definitely hit the like button. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more of this. Again, if you don't want to, it's no skin off my bones. I know it's a bit of a different video. It's not everyone's cup of tea, especially because these are usually longer videos because I want to stop and talk about, things and go over my thoughts. So guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.